Welcome to Saint's Journey, Sacred Stories, where today we will dive into a story of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering faith. Get ready to learn about the moving life of Blessed Barbara Ulma, a child whose brief existence was marked by one of the most extraordinary acts of compassion and bravery amid the horrors of World War II. Picture a cold, quiet night in a small Polish village, Markowa, in 1944. Under the cover of darkness, a simple family lives with a dangerous secret that could, at any moment, condemn them to death. What would you do if, in the midst of war, sheltering innocents meant a death sentence? This was the brave choice that Barbara's father, Józef Ulma, and his wife, Wiktoria, made when they decided to hide Jews under their own roof, risking the lives of their 6 children, including little Barbara. However, a cruel betrayal was about to seal the fate of the entire Ulma family. Awoken in the middle of the night by Nazi soldiers, they would be forced to witness one of the most inhumane scenes imaginable. What happened on that fateful night? How was a devout family led to sacrifice for following the commandments of their faith? In this episode, you will discover the power of a love that transcends the fear of death, the strength of a faith that does not bend before evil, and the courage of a child martyr who, along with her family, chose the path of sacrifice for the sake of others. Stay with us and prepare yourself for an unforgettable story of suffering and sanctity, which echoes through time, reminding us that true light can shine even in the darkest nights. Little Barbara Ulma was born on October 6, 1937, in one of the most beautiful and peaceful areas of Poland, the village of Markowa in the Lankit region. Her birth brought joy to her parents, Józef and Wiktoria Ulma, a deeply devout couple known throughout the village for their unwavering faith and compassionate hearts. Barbara, the youngest of the family, grew up surrounded by love and protection alongside her 6 siblings. For the Ulma family, each new child was a blessing, and Barbara was a ray of light who brought life and joy to their simple and modest home. Life in Markowa was simple. The Ulmas lived on a small farm where Józef worked hard to support the family. He was an inventive and talented man, known not only as a farmer, but also as an amateur photographer and a self-taught horticulturist. Wiktoria, on the other hand, was a dedicated mother, always attentive to the well-being of her children and the smooth running of the household. From a very young age, Barbara was taught by her parents to pray, to do good, and to share with those in need. Yet, behind the peace and tranquility of the countryside, a dark shadow was forming. The world was at war. Poland, invaded by Nazi Germany in 1939, was facing times of terror and persecution. The Nazi regime had imposed cruel rules, especially against the Jews. Many in the village of Markowa tried to survive in silence, fearing the consequences of any act that went against the Nazis. But even in the midst of this harsh reality, Józef and Wiktoria couldn't ignore the suffering of their Jewish neighbors. They knew that, as Christians, they couldn't turn their backs. It was their duty to help, no matter the cost. And that cost would indeed be the highest of all. In the winter of 1942, the fate of the Ulma family became intertwined with that of 2 Jewish families fleeing persecution. The Sauls and the Goldmans, 2 groups totaling 8 Jews, were desperate, hungry, and terrified of the looming threat of death. Józef and Wiktoria, driven by faith and empathy, decided to shelter them in their home, fully aware of the danger this decision carried. The punishments for helping Jews in Nazi-occupied Poland were brutal and swift: death for everyone involved, including women and children. The shelter was kept in absolute secrecy. For months, The Ulma family lived in constant tension, hiding the Jews in their home, providing food and protection while trying to maintain a facade of normality. For the children, including Bárbara, this new way of life was mysterious and frightening. She didn't fully understand the danger, but she knew something was different. Her nights were filled with whispers and silent footsteps, and she noticed the constant look of worry on her parents' faces. Even so, Bárbara trusted them, as any child instinctively trusts their parents. The small village of Markowa, however, was not immune to the watchful eyes of the Nazis. The tension grew with each passing day, and there was always the fear that someone might discover the Ulma's secret. At any moment, a betrayal, a mistake, or a single wrong word could doom them all. In March of 1944, the unthinkable happened. Someone in the village, perhaps driven by fear or hatred, informed the Nazi authorities about the Ulma family. The details of the betrayal are shrouded in mystery, but the result was devastating. On a cold March night, German soldiers arrived in Markowa, armed and ready to carry out their terrible mission. In the early hours of March 24th, 1944, the silence of the village was shattered by loud knocks on the door of the Ulma house. The sound echoed like a death knell, terrifying everyone inside. Józef awoke with a start, and in his heart, he knew the end had come. He looked at his wife, Wiktoria, who was visibly distressed. Pregnant with their 7th child, she clutched her belly as if, instinctively, she was protecting the life that had yet to see the world. Bárbara, along with her siblings, was awoken by the commotion. There was a confusion of voices and commands outside, and the children were taken out into the biting cold of the early morning. There, under the pale light of the moon, little Bárbara saw the Nazi soldiers and their guns, and though she didn't fully understand what was happening, she felt a deep fear. The soldiers first dragged the Jews out of their hiding place. The Ulmas were forced to watch as their friends and those they had protected were executed, one by one, before their eyes. With every shot that rang through the air, little Bárbara clung to her siblings, unable to comprehend the brutality she was witnessing. Silent tears streamed down the children's faces as their hopes were crushed along with the lives being lost before them. Soon after, it was the Ulma family's turn. Józef was the first to be killed, followed by Wiktoria, who, despite being pregnant, didn't have time to shield her unborn child. The terror in the children's eyes was unmistakable. When they reached Bárbara and her siblings, the soldiers hesitated for a moment. They were just children. But the hatred that consumed the soldiers left no room for mercy. One after another, they were murdered until little Bárbara, just 6 years old, fell beside her parents and siblings. Bárbara's body, along with those of her family and the Jews they sheltered, was left in a mass grave, an unmarked place, without dignity and without the honor they deserved. Under Nazi orders, the neighbors were forced to bury them hastily. That morning in Markowa was heavy, filled with sorrow and fear. But the Ulma family's sacrifice would not be forgotten. After the war ended in 1945, the bodies were exhumed and given a proper burial in the parish cemetery. The story of their courage, faith, and martyrdom spread throughout the world, touching the hearts of all who heard it. Years later, the sacrifice of the Ulma family would be recognized by the Catholic Church. On December 17, 2022, Pope Francis declared Józef, Wiktoria, their children, including Bárbara, as martyrs. On September 10, 2023, they were beatified in a solemn ceremony, in the presence of thousands of faithful, in the very place where they were executed. Barbara, the young girl who lost her life in an act of love, was elevated to the altars, along with her family, as an example of faith and sacrifice. The story of little Barbara Ulma is a testimony that even the most innocent can be called to make great sacrifices. Her short life and tragic death reveal the depth of the love her family had for Christ's teachings and for humanity. May we, too, in our own lives, be inspired by the Ulma family's example of courage and compassion. There are several moving and powerful details about Barbara Ulma's story and her family, which further highlight the heroism and faith that guided them to the moment of their martyrdom. One of the most emotional aspects is that Wiktoria Ulma, Barbara's mother, was 7 months pregnant when she was murdered. She wasn't only carrying the life of her 7th child, but was also protecting her other 6 children, including Barbara. This unborn child, who never saw the light of day, was included among those beatified by the Church, reinforcing the sacred nature of the entire family's sacrifice. Another surprising detail is how the Ulma family was betrayed. It is known that someone from their own village reported them to the Nazi authorities, motivated either by greed or fear. This betrayal led to the massacre of the family, but the name of the traitor has never been officially revealed, keeping an air of mystery surrounding the tragedy to this day. The place where Barbara and her family were executed has become a symbol of faith and resistance in Poland. In 2023, the family's beatification took place in the same village where they were martyred, bringing together thousands of faithful and turning Markowa into a pilgrimage site for all who wish to honor their sacrifice. Finally, it's interesting to know that the beatification of little Barbara, along with her parents and siblings, marked the first time in history that an entire family was beatified together, reinforcing the strength of their family testimony of faith and Christian courage. Prayer to Blessed Barbara Ulma. Blessed Barbara Ulma, young martyr of the faith, we ask you to intercede for us. May your courage, even without fully understanding the danger, inspire us to act with love and justice, regardless of the circumstances. May your example, and that of your family, remind us that true faith lies in sacrifice and compassion for others. Amen. We hope this deeply touching story of Blessed Barbara Ulma and her family has inspired you as much as it has inspired us. Their act of love, courage, and sacrifice is a testimony of unwavering faith, even in the face of the darkest terror. Little Barbara, only 6 years old, shows us that true strength doesn't lie in size or age, but in the purity of heart and the desire to do good. If you are moved by this story, we invite you to subscribe to our channel, Saint's Journey, Sacred Stories, to follow more inspiring stories like this. Don't forget to like this video and share it with those who need to know examples of faith and Christian heroism. Now, we want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in the Ulma family's place? Your opinion is very important to us. Write in the comments and let's reflect together on the power of faith and sacrifice. May God bless you and your family, and we'll see you in the next episode.